Hello, I'm Chris, this is Gross Models, and welcome to another quick build. This is Bandai's Pose Xwing fighter, which is another 144 kit. As ever with these, the build instructions are on the inside of the lid, so I'm having a glance through those in a moment. It's a Japanese in the bottom, but doesn't mean anything to me. Let's get this cut open and then we'll be able to see what we've got in this box. Right, as ever with these, they're stickers rather than decals, so I'll be mostly using paint to do this. What have we got? Yeah, a couple of bits at the side, little details of silver and bits on there, but nothing to worry about really, so I'd say almost certainly won't be using those. Right, on the sprues, what have we got? As normal, the normal little Bandai 144 kit stand. Unusual to get them all in one colour, all in the black. Quite nice. Obviously the ship's mainly black, so it makes sense for them to be that colour. Right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, start with one. Obviously we've got the top with the be the BB unit in there, won't it? Not the R2. Back, 2 guns. 4 inserts for the wings by the looks of it, and 2 more guns. 1 pair of wings, and alright, that's interesting, a left one side of the bottom. That's an interesting way of doing it. We've got the canopy and another bit that's probably part of the bottom that I would expect, and on the last one we've got another pair of wings. The other side, don't know what those bits, probably something to do with some of the engines, and the front bits of the engines there as well. So as ever, there's not many pieces, not much to worry about. I'll get them cut off the sprue and ready for painting. The paint job on this is obviously mainly black with some orange highlights, so I'll be priming in black and then most likely painting. Now orange over black doesn't come out very well, so yeah, I think I'll be priming in black and then masking to do the orange, but I'll put down a grey or a white first to give me something to put the orange on to make it brighter. So yeah, basically we've got black, orange, silver and a bit of grey by the looks of it as well. Cockpit's probably grey rather than silver, but I'll let's say get it off the sprue and then start the build for you. See you in a moment. And that's this kit. Only a couple of dozen pieces. Most of it can't be put together until it's all done because of the way the wings obviously fit together. Painting would be much more challenging to do with it put together, but there are a couple of bits that can go together if I can get them together. The backs of the engines, for instance, these pieces here that aren't going together because you've got to get them the right way around. That's that one, and that's this one. And the same on the other wing. Now the covers I sort of want to put on over these bits. These get the right way around again. That one just goes on like that, but the engine bit needs to go on first, and as that needs to be in silver and the rest, most of the rest of this doesn't, I don't want to put them on until I've got them painted. I don't think I can get away with sliding that in after. Might be able to. Let's have a look. If I can push that on. Yeah, actually, scratch that. I can put these together to begin with, because that will slide on over the top. Now, as ever with these little Bandai kits, they don't need glue pretty much at all, which was always nice. Things just snap together, which does mean if there are any problems, they come apart again nicer. So let me just get these little bits on there. The guns on these are better than the original Xwing, the older version Xwing, in that they're a bit thicker, less likely to get broken. Still possible, but less likely. So those need to be kept separate. They need to be kept separate. The two bottom pieces can go together. Yeah, that's fine. There's a little seam line along there that I might glue and sand that down a little bit just to make sure that's okay. And then that will go on there, but I'll glue that first. The cockpit canopy obviously just pops onto the top here, but the edges of that need to be in the grey and that doesn't, so it's easier again to keep that separate. Then I can get it masked in the black and then just paint the grey over the top. The back piece can go on there, and then the top piece can go on over the top, but again the top piece can't go on until I've got the wings on, because they come through the middle obviously. Right, let me just glue this now. So I'm just going to add some extra thin into the middle there, and then just squeezing this together slightly, just force that to bond properly. And then I can just sand most of that nicer. Once it's primed, that's going to cover most of this anyway, so I don't need to worry too much. Making sure I keep a nice sharp edge on there as well. Just going down to a finer grade stick. And finally, a bit of polishing there as well. So yeah, that's nicer than it was. Probably be okay after priming. I might need to go a little bit further into there, but I'll sort that out off camera. That bit obviously just sits in there as well. Lots of detail on this, as ever on these. Some bits in the engine, and obviously the BB unit on there, BB-8, because it's pose fighter. So I have got a tiny BB-8 that I painted, which is a 144 one that came with the Falcon, and the size is the same. So it's always nice to get confirmation across kits. So I need to do that separately. I'll get that done in a minute. See you soon. That's everything primed in black. Now I'm going to be painting most of it black. The only bit I'm not going to do are the engine intakes, which actually the inside, no, they have to be chrome, so I'll be doing those in chrome. The rest of it's going to be black, and then the orange bits put over the top, so I won't bother showing you when it's painted black, because it's going to look much the same as it does at the moment. But once I've got it masked up, I'll give you an update. Right, that's the silver bits done. As I'm sure won't be a surprise to any of you that's seen any of my videos previously, I changed my mind. I have taken the top panels off of the wings here, because I needed to get that edge bit done in silver, and obviously easier to just mask a little bit there rather than the whole thing. So I just need to get those put back in place, and then mask it all up for the orange bits. Also I do need to mask the canopy and do that in probably the chrome as well. I did go with steel for that. I thought it was a nice change from chrome or aluminium, and it gives quite a nice finish. So I've done the panels, the engine intakes, and the very tips of the guns, although this semicircular bit needs to be in black as well, so I need to remask back over the chrome and respray those in black again, but obviously masking that would have been a right pain. So I need to remask that, get that black, remask this, get that chrome, and get the bits back together. So see you soon. Right, that's the last bits of this bit of painting to do. Let me move the bits that I've not painted out of the way. Right, let's see. The guns I've masked and repainted in black, the tips there. So let's have a look at one of those, if I can get it out. There we go. Right, that tip should come off silver, and in there should also be silver, and then down this end should be black. Let's see, get that off without breaking it. Right, I'm just going to use a knife to cut down that edge of tape off camera there. So yeah, I like that. Nice highlighting on there. I think I need to put a little bit more detail on these bits of the gun. Some of the pictures I've seen have got some detail on there, some haven't. It's very strange. There seems to be quite a lot of discrepancy. Most of the pictures I've been able to find online have been fairly low quality, or pictures of models. I mean toy models, not filming miniatures. So it's been a bit strange. Right, what else have I done? I've obviously got the other 3 guns to take apart and show you in a moment, but I'll do that off camera. The top of the ship itself I've masked off and done the couple of silver stripes down there. Obviously still need to do the black, sorry, the orange once the silver is properly dried. Get that off of there. Sticky. Right, let's see how that looks then. Yeah, I like that. It's got thin black line down the middle and 2 little panels of silver. Orange is going to be just underneath it and going onto the bottom bit as well. Obviously a couple more bits on the top as well, but I'm happy with that. And now for the big bit that was a right pain, the canopy. Let me get my tiny tweezers, move the camera in a bit closer. Get that set up there for you, and then let's just have a look and see. Lots of fine masking on this over the black in the middle to hopefully just give us the chrome outline. Obviously being very careful taking this masking off not to scratch the paint underneath or indeed around it. Although the black I will be basically flooding with some of the Citadel Nuln oil, which will give quite a nice effect and tidy up on the edges. So yeah, I'm happy with that. That's okay. I'll get the rest of it off and then get ready to go with the orange in a bit. See you soon. Right, that's that. What I've done now, I've got all of the 4 guns unmasked. They're all looking good. Still need the small updates to a bit of those, but not a problem. I have done some Nuln oil on the black bit of the cockpit. It just adds a bit of definition to the edges and darkens it all down a little bit, makes it look more like black glass rather than black paint. When that's dry, I'll give that another coat and make that a little bit deeper. I have what have we done now? Yeah, taken off the fronts of the engines again to paint the orange stripe. I figured it's obviously easier to paint than when I only have to worry about one side, because anything below it is covered by the framework when I put it in. So I've got them 4 done, and I've done the orange stripe on the underside of the, find somewhere that you can see it in the light, underside of the wings on both of those. So when that's dry, I can put the bits back in. I did put some Nuln oil in the engine bays as well, which I'll be doing again once I put them back together again. That was that. The orange I've been using is Tamiya's Orange X6, which is quite a nice orange, and the only one I've got to hand anyway, and actually a very good match to, excuse me, the stickers that they give you. It's pretty close, as close as you're going to get anyway. So yeah, that's that. Next up, once it's dry, is more orange on the wings, pretty much duplicating what the stickers would be, and the bit from the sticker sheet. So pretty much the interior piece of lots of the outside, and the stripe obviously down either side, and it goes across equal to this silver piece on the top and the other side on there as well. So lots of masking for that. Then I can put the canopy back on, put it all together, and that'll be that. I know a little bit of detail work on the engines as well. Need to put some chrome on those, and I say the bits on the guns. But yeah, it's getting there. This is obviously a tiny kit, not much to build. Doesn't take very long. Apart from waiting for paint to dry, it's, you know, only a few hours really. So yeah, more waiting for paint to dry, and then, I say, for me tomorrow, but for you in a moment, I'll have got the next step set up. Right, see you soon. Right, what have I done since I last filmed? I have done the silver bit, but I think I already told you about that. The orange lines on these I'm going to leave until it's assembled, because I need to do a bit on here and a bit on here, and lining it up is going to be very awkward. So I'm putting them aside for now, and I'll be doing them once it's assembled. I've done the Nuln oil on the cockpit canopy, which I like. It looks good. Once that's on the black, that will look good as well. I've done some of the highlights on the guns, so they're pretty much completed now. So black and chrome on those, so they're ready to go. And I've masked pretty much everything, just leaving the orange bits. There's still 2 grey stripes to put on these after, so I need to remove the little bits of masking there, remask the rest of it, and mask around those once I've done the orange on both sides of both of those. The lines are eyeballed rather than actually measured, so although they're pretty much, there's a couple that are not quite even, but I figure they would be hand painted anyway, so I don't mind that they're not going to be 100%. So I'm going to be using Tamiya X6 orange on that, and then when that's dry, I'll peel it off, remask, and do the grey, which isn't chrome, it's just grey. So I don't need to do chrome, little bits of chrome highlights according to the stickers on a couple of the panels along the edge, and a couple of bits on here, which I may or may not put on. It's one of those, you know, I don't know whether to bother doing it or not sort of thing. The one other decal that I see on there, this is the one across the nose that I'm doing. Obviously that's the canopy, that's the engines and the wings. I'm not sure about number 1. I'm just going to look that up and see what that should be. 1. Oh, it's a little bit on the on the front as well, which is just again in a grey rather than a chrome, but we'll see. Actually, that silver bit on the front should have been grey apparently, but oh well. I'll mix it up a little bit. I'm not going for screen accurate, as I never do, because I can never be sure about getting it exactly right. So painting, I'll do that and then show you what it looks like when I get the masking off. And now I've done the grey. I obviously did the lines thicker than the original, so I've only got one instead of the two that they've got. So I've got I say two, I think three orange and then one grey. I masked over everything just to make sure, although obviously I only painted in this bit. I did also decide to go over and do this in the grey rather than the silver, so we'll see how that looks when I take that masking off. It's still a little bit wet, but that's not a bad time to take the masking off of this. So I'll get this one off. Obviously the wings are going to be a little bit more tricky to demask, so I'll do those off camera and just show you how they look in the end. There you go, that's that one in the grey. Still the top bit to get off. Let's get that one there. Did go a little bit under at the top, but that's going to be orange over there anyway, so that's not a problem. Right, so yes, that's that. I'll let that dry a little bit more fully before I peel the masking off of all that. Then that's all the painting done on the wings. So I can get the wings assembled into the body, put them on the body, and then mask up the body ready for the orange stripes. So yeah, I'll get that done next and then show you where I am. Right, let's see what's under this. So this should be pretty much all of the major paintwork done. I've done the silver bits at the back and on the top, and this is just the masking from the edge orange and the bit on the top. Let's see what it looks like. I still need to touch up the black where some of the masking didn't quite take, as always happens with my masking. Don't know about anyone else's. Right, let's see. Oh yeah, that's not done very well right up there. Definitely needs some work on the black there. Trouble with this Tamiya paint, if I thin it a little bit too much, it seeps quite a lot. So yes, I need a little bit of touching up around the edges down there, a little bit down the bottom there, but not too bad. That side's worse. Definitely needs some work on there, but again, not too bad. Right, I'll leave that to dry more completely before I worry about doing the black around that, because I don't want it to seep into it at all. So now I think I shall do a bit of detail work on the BB unit in there, and then after that, when the other paint's dry, I can get onto that. So I'll dig out my stick that is conveniently just the right size for all of these. There we go. Now that gives me somewhere to keep that while I'm doing the work. Right, so small detail paint, white, then a bit of orange and a bit of silver on it again for the BB unit, and then touching up some of the black and a bit of the chrome in there as well by the looks of it. Yeah, so I can't do that on camera, so I'll do that and then show you what's finished afterwards. Might as well put the canopy back on in a minute as well. The guns I'm leaving off because they're quite fine, so I'll get them on at a later date. They're all painted and highlighted nicely as well, so once it's all together then it'll be the last bit of weathering, but for now, I say, a little bit of detail paint that I can't film. See you in a minute. That's it, pretty much completed. What have I done? I've basically been touching up the black along the edges where it didn't feed through quite well. I've put some little chrome highlights on the orange bits as they're shown on the decals. Both sides, just a couple of bits here and there. Painted BB in white and then done some orange and chrome on that as well. I do need to weather it, but apart from that it's pretty much completed. I'm happy with it. It's come out very well. I won't be weathering it heavily. It's not going to be, say, a wreck. It's just going to be used. So basically some grime around the engines and a little bit of light weathering and possibly a little bit of light chipping on some of the orange just to show the black underneath. But that's pretty much complete. So I'll get the weathering done and then show you the finished model. Right, that's it with a gloss varnish just to lock all the paint in. As ever with these, I'm going to be using a Starship wash, which is a nice, quick, easy way of getting a bit of grime in without worrying too much about it. So I'm going to use a fairly big brush compared to that anyway. And on this one I'm not actually just going to be covering it. What I'm going to be doing is focusing on some of the areas that I really want covered, and I'm going to have some odorless thinners just in a little dish ready to use to clean it away with a slightly smaller brush. Right, so here we go. I want it in the engine bay and around the droid there. That doesn't need to be shiny, and pretty much in the wings, inside the engines, and inside the middle bit, which I'll get to in a minute. So I'm just going to give all of this a sort of rough going over, not neatly, just covering it in a bit. And actually I'm going to use this brush because I need to get a lot of that off. Holding it upright so gravity will do most of the work for me, and just sort of drip it back down. Most of this is going to come off. The bits I want to keep are the bits that are going to get pulled into the little recesses and pulls. What I will need is a dry brush in a moment, so I'm just going to grab my bit of kitchen roll just to dry the thinners off of the brush. I'm going to rest that down that way. Get the kitchen roll out. Just a small square that I can get rid of most of it off on the brush. So I'm not just adding lots more, I'm actually going to be soaking some of this up. I'm going to have the wings open when it's on display, as it were, so I'm going to leave those open while I'm doing the painting. I'm not going to be doing any sort of chipping or anything like that on this one. I don't really want it to look old and worn. It's just going to look a bit used. I quite like the a little bit used style. The engine's obviously going to be the dirtiest. I'm going to add some pigment to those as well afterwards, but just need to get in, so mostly everywhere. And let's get the bits inside the engines there as well. Get a bit of good coverage over all of the wings, and then get rid of most of it, leaving just a faint trace. Once it's dry I'll be able to see what I've been left with and either add more, or, so if need be, get in there and get rid of some. I don't think I'm going to be needing to get rid of any. I think I will be adding more to this afterwards anyway. The underside obviously needs a bit more as well, being the underside. Some of the guns, obviously being careful with the guns because they are quite fine on this kit. So once that's that, I just need to go in over the body, the main fuselage itself as well, and then I'll give it a few minutes just to dry a bit, which will help me see how it looks, obviously, because this is still shiny and wet. I don't want it to be too visible. Weathering at this scale is almost an art form, which I'm not particularly good at, but I'm getting there. I'm getting better. Every time I do a bit, I think it looks better than the one before. But you can see how this, hopefully you can see how this just sort of sits into all the panel lines and makes them much more noticeable. Brings out the shading and the depth. Now I did paint this in black, and normally you wouldn't use normal plain black because you can't do much with it. You can't darken it and create shadows and things. So normally a slightly off black or a very dark grey would be the colour of choice, but this ship does have to be quite black. So I'm hoping that with a bit of weathering and it will look a bit used but not terrible. Right, I think that's pretty much it for this coat. I can't see any obvious patches of blotchy or nastiness in there. Of course I probably will when I look back on the video, but it looks pretty good and not too bad. I'm going to add a bit more into that engine bay, because I do want that to be darker, being quite a noticeable bit, although I don't really want the droid to be too dark, so let me pick him out and get rid of some of that on there. Sorry, that might not have been on camera. So I'm just getting more into the silver bits to darken that down and less on the droid. So that's probably that. I'll leave that to dry and then see. Yeah, a little bit more in the engines as well while I'm here. That's probably about it. Yeah, I'll let that dry and then come back to that in a moment. Right, change of plan. While it's still a little bit wet, I'm going to add some of the pigment, the metal slag, which is a powder, with an old brush. Just need to make sure it's dry. Just pick up some of this pigment powder, and I'm just going to add it to the ends of the engines, and then again get rid of most of it, add a little bit of thinner, which just makes it a bit more liquid again, a little bit more I think. That's going to just adds quite a nice effect of sort of scorched and burnt, as the tips of the nozzles probably would be, being that it's a powder. It mostly comes off as well. So just going to wet that down again, get rid of some of that, spread that around a little bit. Trying to get them all pretty much even. And of course all round the edges. That's pretty much that, I think. Now I can see it where it's starting to dry already. I can see quite a lot of bits pooling of the original weathering. So I'm just going to pull some of that back off again. Don't want that to be too prominent. Yeah, that should be that. and that's pretty much that. Once it's dry, I'll be able to get a better idea of how it looks, and if need be, add a couple of details. I might add a couple of sort of scorch marks and burns, but probably not on this particular kit. I'm quite happy with how that's looking, but I'll let that dry, and then hopefully that'll be the end. I'll show you in a bit. Right, the last thing I've done before giving it a matte varnish is to add some of the blue glass paint that I've got into the engines. It just adds a nice little reflective blue bit to them that you can only see when you're right behind it, so not going to see a great deal, but makes it pop a little bit. Happy with that. It looks like they're sort of idling or ready to go. So when that's dry, a matte coat, and then that'll be it completed. I'll show you it as ever on the turntable in a little while. And there we have the kit completed. Another little build that doesn't take very long to do. I added some more blue to the engines after the matte varnish, just to make sure they sort of pop as if they're glowing rather than just being sitting there dull like the rest of it. Didn't do much weathering on this one, no paint chips or anything like that, but yeah, I hope you've enjoyed watching me build and paint. As ever, thanks for watching. Hope you subscribe to the channel and watch the other videos that I've got sitting up here, and any more to come. As ever, thanks for watching.